Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Cohen, when corporate media was normalizing all of this, we said they wanted the smoke, they wanted the drama, they wanted the chaos. We, the people, did not want that. It's why people are tuning out corporate media when they thought that this was going to be a great renaissance for them. People are tuning into shows like this now because I don't, this chaos, this mess. We have our allies who are looking at us with horror, and you have our enemies who are laughing in our faces. You know, the Trump line, they're laughing at our faces. They're actually, our enemies are laughing in our faces. I mean, Putin showing nudes of Melania on almost a daily basis on Russian TV, and the hosts are quite literally laughing at the United States of America. Here's a post from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Before we started the show, she made this post, and it just shows you where we are right now as a country, that this is even taking place with Donald Trump's appointment of Matt Gaetz, or nomination of Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, someone who has very credible allegations against him of child sex trafficking, with numerous witnesses saying that he trafficked in children sexually, with more details coming out that he would bring them to the Fox studios when he was doing interviews. He would bring them to Broadway plays and to Broadway shows. There's a lot of people in the Senate, because I'm not sure which Americans wouldn't want this to be released, but even Senate Republicans are saying, look, we've got to release this ethics report. We have to see what's in there. Donald Trump's nominating a child sex trafficker as an AG. That's data that we should have. Trump saying no FBI background checks, no nothing. Let's just have him do it. So here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene's doing. She's now threatening Republicans in the House and Senate who call for the release of the ethics report. She posts, "For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we are going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed, all your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money, the entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews, but not just those. There's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight." And she's talking about her Republican colleagues right here. And Cohen, as I started off the show saying, our allies are looking at us in horror. Our enemies are looking at this and quite literally laughing. If I saw this in some other nation, I would say, what in the hell is going on there? Right. Cohen, what's going on here?
I have a contrarian, unfortunate opinion to you in this. While I acknowledge every single thing that you say, there are allegations against Matt Gaetz for sex trafficking, for sex with a minor, and so on. I'm not even going to touch the issue on the veracity or inaccuracy of those statements. It's irrelevant at this point in time, because the president of the United States, by process, gets to pick and choose who his cabinet, who his administration is going to consist of. And what I say to people who are constantly saying, yeah, but we didn't know. Well, it's not like Donald didn't tell us all exactly what he intended to do by filling up his cabinet and his administration with loyalists. He told us. In fact, not only did he tell us that, he also told us that he was going to make them sign a loyalty pledge. And media went apeshit. They went fucking nuts, screaming and saying, you don't pledge loyalty to an individual. You pledge loyalty to the Constitution. You pledge loyalty to the country, to the people to whom you are supposed to serve. And so we are now with our hands tied behind our back, because all the mainstream media can do is keep talking about hypotheticals and innuendos and so on. The process will play out whether we like it or not. So let's examine for 2 seconds what is the process. There's only two options. One option is the recess appointments where they completely escape and they do not have Senate confirmation hearings. They just don't. There's a whole section on this. And or it goes before the Senate and they confirm him, or they don't, right? That the Senate does play an active role. Now, most people are saying, I want to see the report. I want to see the report. The bulk of the people really want to see the report, not for the content. There's already been how long was that case ongoing against Gates on this, and they ultimately dropped it. But now all of a sudden we need to see a report, only because it's salacious. That's the reason why most people want to read it, because we're kind of like running this ridiculous reality show country. It's like we're turning our country into like a Kardashian reality show. And I say to each and every one of you, this is not technically our fault. This is the fault of those people who ignored what Donald Trump said that he intended to do. It's not like he hid this. This is not latent. This is not disguised. He came right out and he told each and every one of us again and again and again exactly what he intends to do if and when he wins the election. And now he's doing it. And now everybody's nervous.
Well, let me take a contrarian view from your contrarian view there. I think the report is critical to be released because in normal course, there would be FBI background checks. There would be all of the information on a specific nominee that would go before it, and the person would be asked questions about it. I don't think that I don't want to see the report because of the salacious nature and the gossip factor of it. I want to see the report because I want to be able to read it. I want to analyze the allegations. I want to see the details surrounding it. You know, there's
why?
Because I want to view it critically. I think that I'm entitled to.
But what does your viewing it critically or biased? What does that ultimately affect the fact that the president-elect who's picking his cabinet is choosing somebody like this to be the attorney general? Will it change anything in your mind as to whether or not he should or he should not be the attorney general? Because most people already have their mind made up. Either you're saying that he doesn't possess the moral character or the experience to be the attorney general, or right, you turn around and you're saying, I don't give a shit what his experience is, that he's MAGA, I'm MAGA, and I want him. I mean, I think everybody's already made up their mind already. I'm just trying to understand what the evaluation of this report will actually do and how it would change anybody's mind at all. It will not. That's my version of this.
Well, I think that he should have to go before a Senate committee and he should be questioned on it. I mean, I think that as of right now,
can I say something to a bunch of our viewers and followers? Number one, I'm not running scared. I'm not running anywhere. I'm sitting in the same home that I've been in for 20 years, and I'm not going anywhere. What I'm trying to do, like I do this on my YouTube channel, I'm trying to give you facts. Now, you may not like the facts. Many of you are saying, oh my God, he's scared. He's actually saying, I'm giving you a fact. And the fact is, you don't get to choose. Ben doesn't get to choose. I don't get to choose. Barack Obama doesn't get to choose. Kamala Harris doesn't get to choose. And Joe Biden doesn't get to choose Donald Trump's incoming cabinet or his administration. And so my point is, as we sit there and we start to listen to mainstream media, the cable news, where they're spending hours and hours and hours talking about things that, one, are either hypothetical, or two, no one has any control over. Zero control over it. There will be no change whatsoever, regardless of what those pundits are telling you. But here on this station, that's what we're going to give to you. We will deal with the issues as they arise. There's no point in coming up with a hypothetical out of a mystery box and say, hey, let's put our hand in the mystery box and pull out, oh, Matt Gaetz is going to do X, Y, and Z. Let's talk about that. Why? All we're doing is creating angst and anxiety in our own lives. There's reality, and then there's them. Midas Touch Network, this political beatdown, we may have differences of opinion in terms of whether we want to see it or we don't. Personally, I don't give a shit what it says, because there's nothing that I could end up reporting to you on that report that will change anything as to whether or not this guy becomes the attorney general. If they get the recess appointments, he will be our attorney general. And if it goes to the Senate, we have to hope that there are enough Republican senators to turn around and to say, this shit's just not happening. If not, again, he becomes our attorney general. So why is that being full of crap? That's factual. You may not like the facts, but tough shit. That happens to be the reality of it.
Well, I don't think the reality is that recess appointments are a default for major cabinet level positions. In the past, we saw major cabinet level positions get derailed because it was determined that they may have hired a nanny or someone who was undocumented, and something like that derailed it. A process played out, documents were presented, the person went before the Senate. The Senate has what's called an advice and consent function. They question the individual, and then the individual is either confirmed or not. I don't believe that there should be a process where just because you're either, I disagree with you, Michael. I don't think that just because you're either MAGA or you're not, that defaults to Donald Trump having dictatorial powers. What we have to do, what you have to do, what I have to do, what we the people have to do, is we have to, in these times, not give up. And I'm not suggesting that that's what you're saying, but we should not give up on the institutions. If you give up on the institutions and just say, look, he's a MAGA guy, Trump does what he wants, he's the attorney general, it doesn't matter, then we've already lost the fight. I think what is important is, while it will not persuade you, for example, that anything in this report, I think you believe that Matt Gaetz did the things that he's accused of. So
I know Joel Greenberg is in prison for it, or is it Greenberg, whatever it is. I know he's in prison for the exact same offense, and he's testified, but Matt Gaetz's case did not go anywhere, right? And, I know a lot
Matt Gaetz's case did not go in, but we have to stick to the facts. The reason that Matt Gaetz's case did not go anywhere is the Department of Justice made an assessment that I think was wrong. But they said she was this is what the DOJ's reasoning was, that she was 17 years old at the time, that Gaetz didn't know, which to me is ridiculous. That's still statutory rape. And that I believe what they said, the DOJ, is that because she pursued a career in adult-related things, and if I'm getting the story right, that they thought that they would have trouble potentially getting a conviction in the district in Florida before the judge that was the judge. We have a lot of gripes with Merrick Garland and the DOJ and the way they prosecuted it. That said, the ethics committee that's been investigating this is not made up of Democrats. It's a bipartisan committee of Democrats and Republicans. And for a long period of time, they've been investigating these allegations in a way the Department of Justice didn't. They have information about how Matt Gaetz would coordinate with the underage children, potentially. I'd like to know those facts. Was he using Nestor? Who is this Nestor? Apparently the son of someone Matt Gaetz dated, who Matt Gaetz claims he adopted Nestor, but there's no paperwork showing a formal adoption. But now we're learning Matt Gaetz is using Nestor's phone, his purported adopted son, when his son was underage, to Venmo the underage children. I, being a contrarian to you, Michael Cohen, think that that's a fact that if given into the hands of the public, that people who may just say, look, with TikTok, with social media, everyone's accused of everything. There's so many accusations out there. Everyone's being accused of things. I disagree with that. I think that's ridiculous. I think that there's a body of people, though, that can say, whoa, there's very specific information. Here's the payment that was made to the girl. Here's the girl's Venmo. Here's Matt Gaetz's.
That information has already been put out there, Ben. That information was done in the indictment. The earlier indictment of Gaetz. We already know it. We've seen.
Gaetz wasn't indicted. Gaetz wasn't indicted.
Not the indictment, in the allegations. They already put it out there. Joel Greenberg put it out there. His lawyer put it out there. They showed the Venmo back and forth was like $500 this time, and so on. The point what that do you
suggest? What do you suggest, Michael?
Propose a solution. Here's my suggestion. Everybody, just sit back. The process is going to occur, whether we like it or we don't. And if the shit hits the fan, as many of us expect that it will, that's the point that we, as a community, need to be bigger, stronger, and we need to react. One of the ways that you react is going to be in the midterm elections when somebody tells you who they are. This time, you don't turn around and say, well, you know what, but groceries and gasoline. The bottom line, the plurality of Americans voted for Trump. He told you exactly what he was going to do. Now that he's doing it, everybody's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We didn't think that you were serious. We didn't think that you were really going to do this, right? Well, he told you. And when somebody tells you who they are or what they are, then it's very simple. Make sure that they don't end up having the power within which to control who's the Attorney General of the United States. But we failed. We failed as the Democratic Party to seat somebody who would not be picking individuals like Pete Hegseth or Dr. Oz or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We create our own mess. And now we're going to try to sit there and figure out, oh, well, if I listen to this pundit on MSNBC or, talk about what's right and what's wrong, what's this, what's that, nothing's going to change. January 20th, this guy's going to put his hands on the Bible. They're going to swear him in. And do I think that all shit's going to hit the fan? I don't know about all shit, but do I think that it's going to be crazy? That we're going to be dealing with a lot on our plate? 100%.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with a lot on our plate right now.
Yes.
And I think that there is a role for we the people, regardless of political party, who elect members of Congress and senators who have in the Senate an advice and consent function that they are not supposed to give away, that they're not supposed to submit. They're not supposed to obey to fascism. Sure, in the past, have recess appointments been utilized? Yes, but they haven't been abused where the Senate has given up its advice and consent function on key top cabinet positions, or at least wholesale. So right. I disagree. I think that there is a role for we the people right now to push and apply pressure to all politicians, regardless of political party, that we don't want someone who has credible allegations of child sex trafficking to lead the Department of Justice. I want to know about all of the allegations. I want Matt Gaetz. I want Pete Hegseth. I want Tulsi Gabbard to sit in front of the Senate. And to the extent Donald Trump does an end run around it, and he declares by fiat on day one that he's the dictator on day one, which, by the way, is something that he said, then I want to make sure that all pressure, maximum pressure, is applied on day one so that we don't just sit back and obey and allow it to happen. I think you have to start now. I think if you give an inch, they take your life. And so for me, right now, again, regardless of your political party, I think that you should want all the information. When it comes to Pete Hegseth, for example, Pete Hegseth has credible accusations against him of sexual assault dating back to 2017, which he denies. 38% of Trump's cabinet has credible accusations of sexual assault or harassment against them. I think with Pete Hegseth, the woman who he paid off, allegedly, should testify at a hearing, and the American people should get to hear, and American people should get to watch this. I think there is a function for us. I don't think it's perfunctory. I think it is something that we need to do. So it is where, and if you want to know why I think I'm right, go back to what I showed at the beginning of this episode. If there wasn't pressure applied on a bipartisan basis, then you wouldn't have Marjorie Taylor Greene attacking Republicans. We just sat back and we were like, let the sex trafficker in. This is Trump. This is what you voted for. We lost the election. Sit back, let all hell break loose, and then we'll deal with it. Look about what's happening now. Before Trump's even taken office, there's pressure, and they are not handling it well. That was the first thing I showed you. Michael Cohen and I are going to have a lot more intense debates like this. And
it's really not intense. It's really not an intense debate. It's a difference of opinion based upon my understanding of processes versus your interpretation of the process.
Well, we'll talk about that. Let's take our first quick break of the show. When we get back, we'll do a processy interpretation dialogue, not debate. We'll be right back after our first quick break.
Many of you in the comments are always saying, Michael, take it easy. Take it easy on these ad reads. So I'm going to try to do that because you've heard me talk about my cardiovascular issues for years now. And I have no idea where I'd be, probably flatlined, without my incredible production crew here at the Mighty Midas Touch Network and my incredible EP, Sydney, who keeps me focused and, more importantly, on time. So it's easy to take for granted what and who helps you thrive in life, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. And now I'm talking about like your actual heart. The makers of Super Beat heart shoes believe the cardiovascular system is the force that unlocks the best parts of life, and your heart is at its center. So paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beats are clinically shown to be nearly two times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. Look, I take mine every single morning. I take it with my green tea and my oatmeal. Yeah, I know it's boring breakfast. Yeah, but healthy? Heck yeah, it is. So I open the wrappers. I chew them after eating my breakfast, and it's like having a delicious dessert or a snack. And I'm going to tell you this, I feel great after taking them. I have more energy, and I just feel like I'm ready to tackle the world. And as you all know, I have a lot of tackling to do these days. So let me be clear. Cardiovascular health matters. It matters because it connects your heart to every part of your body. It's trusted by cardiologists across the country and real people like you. It's the #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended beat brand for cardiovascular health support. Heart healthy energy without the crash. Super Beats heart shoes. They support healthy circulation without stimulants. And its clinically studied ingredients help support your cardiovascular health, like the grapeseed extract in heart shoes, sustainably sourced from southern France. It's a convenient way to support healthy blood pressure. And I know about blood pressure, that I promise you, with no pills to swallow, no ingredients to mix or prepare. It's just simple, plant-based active ingredients. So power the moments your heart beats for the Super Beats Heart Chews and get 15% off and save even more on bundles using code BEAT at getsuperbeats.com. That's getsuperbeats, BEETS.com, code BEAT. So I just learned that you can actually buy hemp-derived THC products legally anywhere in the United States through our next partner, Soul. This podcast is actually sponsored by Soul. And Soul's new out-of-office gummies are perfectly microdosed with hemp-derived THC and CBD to give any day that chillin' on the beach vibe. I mean, the last time I had my Soul out-of-office gummy was over the weekend when I was perhaps a little too stressed after a long day of hot takes. And let me say, it was amazing. And did you know that you can now buy these hemp-derived THC products in all 50 states? Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp-derived THC, it's now legal and accessible nationwide. I mean, I can't believe I didn't know that you could buy THC products online like this. So note that the out-of-office gummies, they help you get that much-needed me time at the end of the day or during the day. They're convenient and delicious. Out-of-office gummies give you the warm, the fuzzy, the euphoric microdose feeling without sending you to the moon. I mean, you could go for a jog, you could watch your favorite TV show, or you could even go head out to a party, whatever floats your boat. Soul's out-of-office gummies are perfect microdoses of THC that keep you feeling good without the anxious thoughts. And so you know, whether you're looking for a sleep aid, enhanced focus, or pain relief, Soul has all your wellness needs covered. And Soul's products are grown right here in the USA, organically farmed, and, get a load of this, gluten-free. So this holiday season, give the gift of Soul. Head to getsoul.com and use code BEAT, B-E-A-T, for 30% off your order. That's 30% off your order using code BEAT. So one last time, getsoul, that's SOUL.com, and use code BEAT for 30% off.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. We do have to chat at some point in this episode, though, about what happened in the New York case against Donald Trump, where you testified as the key witness, and how the district attorney saying that they're not agreeable to dismissing the case. They understand that with Donald Trump being, unfortunately, the president-elect, that's going to move dates and kick things for a very long period of time. I think it was an important thing that the district attorney put his and their foots down and said, we're still going forward with this case. We're not getting rid of this case, but obviously it's going to be stayed or delayed. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to go back to the dialogue and discussion that we had. So let me show you, for example, Cohen, earlier in the day, Democratic Congress member Jim McGovern taking to the House floor. Here's what he had to say. Let's play it.
What the hell is going on here? And their cabinet picks so far? I mean, these are like beyond insane. Someone who is credibly accused of having sex with an underage girl. Someone who sucks up to foreign dictators and has attracted major concern that they can't be trusted to protect America's secrets from our adversaries. Someone who paid hush money to cover up a sexual assault accusation, to lead our military. He's picked because Donald Trump likes him on Fox News. Someone who says that tap water turns kids gay. I mean, this is the dream team? This is the dream team? Really? I mean, seriously, it would be funny if it weren't so sad.
So, Cohen, should Jim McGovern, Democratic Congress member, is your perspective based on our discussion that, why are you even saying that, Jim? Like, just, there's nothing you can do about it. Is that what you're suggesting?
In one respect, yes. You see, I could sit here and to our supporters and, the comments that are flying through, and I say every single thing that you want to hear, right? We need the report. Matt Gaetz needs to be punished, for underage sex trafficking, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, I'm not going to argue with you on any of those things. But here's the reality. Jim McGovern could say whatever he wants, and he's not wrong. With the statements that he's making, he's not wrong. What Jim McGovern should have done is Jim McGovern should have run for the presidency and won, and then we wouldn't have these people. The president of the United States, whether Michael Cohen likes it, whether Ben Meiselas likes it, or whether any of you like it or not, gets to pick and choose his cabinet, regardless of how ridiculous some of those picks are.
Yeah, but that's not true. He gets to
absolutely true. He gets to nominate once for his cabinet, and he again. Everybody's sitting there and they're like scratching their head now on television. How is it possible, Jim McGovern, right? How is it possible that you're putting in somebody who's a sex predator? How do you put somebody in who is in Putin's pocket? How do you put in somebody who claims that drinking water will turn your child gay and so on? This is terrible stuff. This is terrible stuff. But you know what? This is who Donald Trump said he was intending to bring with him to D.C. if he wins. And the guy defied all odds, and he won against a great candidate for whatever the reason may be. Maybe as Democrats, we sucked at messaging. Maybe it's because people refuse to vote for a woman. Maybe it's because they refuse to vote for a black woman. I don't know what possessed people to vote for him as opposed to her. I can only tell you why I chose Kamala Harris, because I knew the type of people he was intending to bring with him to D.C. Well, we're now in a situation. There's nothing that we could do or say at this very moment. Not that there's nothing we can't do down the road, but us sitting there and talking about hypotheticals of what Dr. Oz is going to do in his position, or
as the director of Medicaid services.
Of Medicaid services, right? We have no idea what they're going to do. And that's why programs like Political Beatdown, why Midas Touch as a network is more important now than ever before. Because here, you're going to get the instant reaction, not the one predicated on fear, like with the nonsense with Joe and Mika running down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss his ring so that they could keep their ratings up and that they could end up keeping their pockets filled as opposed to losing a show. Come on. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm merely stating a fact, and my fact, as far as I'm concerned, is undeniable.
I deny your fact.
It is factual.
So where I deny it is that there is a nomination function and then obligatory. It's an obligation of the Senate in the Constitution is advice and consent. When our founding fathers drafted the Constitution, they put in it still checks and balances. And while, look, someone like a Marco Rubio, for example, is somebody who I vehemently disagree with probably 98% of the time on things, you don't hear me on this show or see me saying Marco Rubio is not qualified to be Secretary of State, would not be who I think should be Secretary of State. I don't think he'll be a good Secretary of State, but he certainly has the qualifications to do it. And I think on picks like that, sure, that's ideology versus actual destruction of our democracy and institutions. So when it comes to Matt Gaetz, though, when it comes to Pete Hegseth, when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard, when it comes to RFK Jr., the Senate, if it still believes that it is a co-equal branch of government, the House under MAGA Mike Johnson, or as many call him now, Donald Trump's Little Johnson, they certainly believe that they are an arm of the dictatorship. They don't view themselves in the Republican-led House as a co-equal branch. But in the Senate, and again, as much as I despise Mitch McConnell, as much as I think Mitch McConnell put us in these positions, that allowed for Donald Trump to nominate these Supreme Court justices. McConnell was still an institutionalist in the sense of here's how the Senate is obliged to function, even if ideologically he's created a catastrophic, cataclysmic disaster for the country. It's why MAGAs hate Mitch McConnell, because he wouldn't go full dictatorship. He went about half. I'm not defending McConnell by any stretch of the imagination, but now we have John Thune. I think there was a lot of pressure applied to the Senate. It could have been Rick Scott. Had people done nothing, had the prevailing view been nothing we can do about it, well, you would have Rick Scott, who led the largest healthcare fraud in American history. He would be the one leading the Senate. And you would have MAGA Mike Johnson in the House. Now, at least, someone like John Thune from South Dakota is a real right-winger, someone who I don't see eye to eye with on mostly any issue, but he still is someone who is an institutionalist about the Senate. So I still think right now there is a role for we the people to do something, which is to go tell our senators, even if they're from the other party, to educate the masses, to educate all of the people on the way it's supposed to work. So for everybody who thought, let's say Donald Trump says, you know what, I'm going to invoke recess powers. For him to do that, though, both the Senate and the House would have to agree they're in recess. That's the way it works. If a disagreement, though, between the Senate and the House on that issue, Trump will try to invoke a provision under the Constitution that no one's ever utilized before that basically says he's the tiebreaker and he declares the recess. So if you play this out and you don't give an inch, and ultimately the House goes into recess, MAGA Mike goes to the UFC fights with Donald Trump when they do the stupid YMCA dance, and he's doing that, you have the Senate saying, look, we'll do recess appointments for Rubio and a handful of other people who we don't like, but they're at least qualified, even though whatever. But on these four, we're holding hearings. We're not going to budge. And then Donald Trump says, dictator on day one, I'm forcing upon the American people.
Well, I think there's more than just those four. You have Tom Homan, who's somewhat problematic as well.
Border czar, but I don't think that requires confirmation. I could be wrong, but it's a border czar. I'm not sure that's fully a confirmation.
I'm not sure what his even position is going to ultimately be. But my point is, again, let's just respectfully agree to disagree, and we'll see whether or not Trump is successful, as he said that he intends to be, in doing recess appointments. And not only did Trump say it, but so did MAGA Mike Johnson, which I thought was despicable in a interview with, I think, Manu Raju, where he said, that the president has every single right within which to fill his cabinet and his administration with people that he deems to be loyalists. And if it's going to be done via recess appointments, so be it. I mean, Cohen, that is not normal conversation. Unfortunately, it is our reality of what we are living with right now. Let's just sit back, wait and see. You may be right, and I will be thankful if you are right. I pray to God that I am wrong. I just know him better than anybody, and I know that this is exactly what he intended to do. I have been yelling from the rooftops for years now. Since he decided to enter the race, I have been yelling from the rooftop. Understand, when he tells you what he intends to do, why are you just ignoring it? Folks, why are we ignoring it? Well, we're not ignoring it, but enough citizens did, enough Americans did, that he will once again occupy the Oval Office. He defied all odds.
I believe that one of the main reasons Democrats lost is they did not do their ABCs, which I say is always be campaigning. For 3.5 years, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans were running a campaign. Democrats started their campaign, 6 months before the election? As soon as Biden took office, Michael Cohen, did the MAGA Republicans say, let's just stay back. Let's just wait. Let's just see what Biden does, and let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Did the Republicans do that?
Nope.
Okay, what did they do? Every single day,
Attack.
Okay, so are you suggesting that we do were they successful in their strategy?
Ultimately, they were successful in their strategy. They ended up, I don't know if I would say the Republicans are the ones that were successful. Donald Trump and his team were successful in rewriting narratives, in whitewashing reality. They had a much better social media campaign than the Democrats.
And is the truth and evidence and the ability to actually help 99% of the people, is that on our side or is that on Trump's side?
I lost you because you broke up.
I was saying, is the truth, the facts, and the ability to help most Americans, is that on our side or is that on Trump's side?
No, it's on our side for sure.
So you're saying to me, Donald Trump, one of the reasons that he was able to be victorious is that Trump and his inner circle spent 3.5 years not waiting around, but using disinformation to lie to the American people each and every day. But at the same token, you're suggesting that we, the people who are armed with the truth and the facts, should sit back, wait, and do nothing, when I think when the learning seems to suggest you got to start right away. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, no, because what I'm trying to say to you is when Trump was doing what he was doing was during a campaign. Trump was then campaigning to be the nominee for the Republican Party. We're in a totally different scenario right this very second. As president-elect, they're putting through their transition team more and more individuals, and I don't disagree with the representative that these are not picks. Certainly that you would pick if you were president, or I would pick, or most people would pick. But then again, we're not president-elect. And so while I'm saying we need to be cognizant, we need to be knowledgeable about what's going on, it's not going to change the ultimate result. Again, we will see who's right and who's wrong, whether or not they get the recess appointments or not. I'm fearful knowing the team that Donald Trump has around, and the fact that he doesn't care about the processes, that he's always looking to figure out how to break down the barrier and to get his own way, that they will ultimately figure out a way, by pressure or not, how to get these recess appointments. And that's when we need to be active.
So I think if you really deconstruct our arguments, it's a temporal, it's a time thing.
That's
my view was that the moment Biden won, starting with an insurrection that frankly never stopped, and all of the lies and the deluge, Trump was ABC. Always be campaigning before there was a presidential race. He did it with fraud. He did it with lies. He did it with disinformation, but he was relentless about it before Biden ever even took the oath of office. So I'm simply suggesting that we be ABC with the truth. We'll always be campaigning, but we do it with the truth. It's going to be dangerous, people, when they take away your Social Security, your Medicare. We don't have to do insurrections, Michael Cohen. We could point out that Donald Trump is hanging out with Elon Musk, who's like a co-president, who's talking about extinction level events, ELEs, for your Social Security,
and that's why
your Medicare.
That's why I keep saying that it has never been more important to stay active with this network, to stay active with Political Beatdown, because here, you may not like what I'm saying, because I'm not here to stroke your ass. Let me be very clear about this. All right? That's not my job here. I'm telling you facts based upon information that I know better than you. I've lived through it. I was side by side by the guy. When he tells you what he's intending to do not think for a second, because sometimes he says, or many times he says, the most ridiculous wackadoodle things out there. He's managed to make them into a reality. And I'm just trying to let everybody know right now we are in a holding pattern based upon what, as citizens of this great country, what we can actually do. But no fucking way am I going to sit back and then just allow this country to fall apart down the line. Unfortunately, that's where you're all going to come in as the brigade, and we're going to have to be a united citizenry against, I hate to say it, what I see as a bunch of our leaders who are going to go rogue in order to appease one man.
We got to take our last quick break of the show. I got to ask you about Joe and Mika. I mean, you know them. What a heartbreak moment, I think, for their viewers to see that. And I got to ask you about what you think is going to happen in the New York criminal case. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
Fuck your khakis and get the perfect gene with 15% off with the code BEAT15 at theperfectgene.nyc/BEAT15. Look, my friends, 400,000. 400,000. Yeah, you're saying 400,000 what? That's how many men have rescued their nuts from stiff, unforgiving genes, all thanks to the perfect gene. These jeans have enough stretch to accommodate Thanksgiving dinner, and they're comfy enough to wear all day while you're watching Sunday football. Plus, even though they feel like sweatpants, they look good enough to be your go-to pants for date night. The perfect jean has the perfect fit for everybody. They've got 6 different fits, waists running from size 26 to 50, and lengths from 26 to 38, which means, if you're mathematical, that there are over 5,000 possible combinations of pants for you to choose from. So if you're a short king or you're actually 6'5", if you love a looser fit or are still in your skinny jeans era, or if you're bulking up or you're cutting down, doesn't make a difference. The perfect jean has the perfect option for you. The perfect jean doesn't stop there, though. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The perfect tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while you're accentuating your arms and your chest for that flawless look. And it's as soft as butter without shrinking in the wash like all your other tees. It's just perfect. The perfect jean always has free shipping, exchanges, and returns. And you get a peace of mind knowing that your order is completely risk-free. So it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. And remember, our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code BEAT15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with promo code BEAT15. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. So please help us to support the show and tell them that we sent you. Again, fuck your khakis or your rough denims and go right now to The Perfect Gene. 15% off with code BEAT15 at theperfectgene.nyc. Go now.
I hope we cleared the cursing in the ad with the with the company. It was we'll see. We may have to do an added value after that, but it's great.
Beat it out next time.
So maybe y'all can help us avoid having to do an added value read by buying the jeans because of Michael Cohen's read.
There you go. You know, I think before we even talk about Joe and Mika, because in all fairness, they really get the 2-finger salute for their complete reversal in terms of their coverage. That's the part that it's really the insult. It's their coverage. You and I, Ben, and some of the brigaders, half the brigaders say, Michael, I agree with you 100%. The other are saying something's fucking wrong with Cohen. And so, no, it's not. I'm merely stating what I know to be factual. You may not see it that way. Ben may not see it that way. I may not agree entirely. Again, it's all with Ben and I. Our disagreement is not on the facts, it's on the timing. That's what it's about. And you may not like what I'm saying because you want to hear what you want to hear. That's one of the problems why we ended up losing the election, because we were only speaking to people who believed and understood exactly what it was that we were saying. All right. That's not how we're going to continue to ensure that our entire government doesn't go upside down, bonkers crazy, because we, as the brigaders of this Political Beatdown show and every show affiliated to the Midas Touch Network, we will all band together. We will build millions, and we will make sure that our voices are heard. And if it's not heard while marching in DC, it will be heard at the ballot box in 2026. And that's the only way to make the proper change. And so to Joe and Mika, it's just disappointing. I get it. It's all for them. It's about their show, ratings, and money. So honestly, fuck you guys. I did want to, however, talk about Alvin Bragg, because I think it's
I talk about just the one point I do want to make is, look, though, if Joe and Mika are scared, if they're fearful, if they feel that because of their past coverage that they're compromised, what do? Just quit. Resign. You don't have to still take that platform. One of my biggest frustrations, in addition to them doing that, and there are people go, but they were scared for their life. They went there. Look, I certainly get that. Sure. I would never do that. I would never consider doing that. I'm not necessarily directly in their position. That's not how we're ever going to run the Midas Touch Network. We're always going to be fearless here until the very end. We will be as fearless, and you will never have to worry about anything like that ever happening on this network. But Cohen, now that they're still there, it's the exact point you're making. Well, now they're compromised. And so to all people like that, if you're too afraid in this moment to be in the media or to host shows, just then don't host them. Don't do them. Just don't do them. Because now the problem with what Joe and Mika are doing is now every time their audience is watching them,
right, the
audience is like, you're just lying to me.
Right.
You're lying to me and I can't trust you. And once that's gone, you may as well leave. Let's talk about Bragg. Your reaction.
So my reaction to Bragg is very, very simple. I think he waited way too long. You've heard me say that a million times. The case, as Mark Pomerantz put it, should have been instituted 1 year earlier than it did. 1 year earlier. We wouldn't be in this situation right now. And I'm not saying that Trump may not have won or what have you. All I could tell you is that right now would not be 2024, it would be 2023, and we'd have 1 year before that. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. And so Donald Trump, with his delay and with his ability to push everything down and to win the presidential election, he will manage to escape all liability and responsibility for this case. Now, again, some of you are saying, this is unfair, fuck you, Cohen, and so on. Okay, take your anger out on me. I happen to be the one that spent a fortune in legal fees to ensure I was properly prepped for all the testimony, from even things like this show, my political, my Mea Culpa podcast, my YouTube channel, my TikToks, whatever it is. They had those and they were using them. So I had to know everything that I had said in 7 congressional hearings, not to mention the one that was live, including this show and my Mea Culpa podcast, which has in excess of 500 episodes. So it cost me a lot. But putting aside all the money that I had lost, the 25 hours on that stand were gut-wrenching. I woke up in the morning nauseous. Here I am, constantly being hailed as I'm the key witness. I'm a subpoenaed non-party witness to a case that is the first case against a former president of the United States, something we have never seen in our 249-year history. So if you think that that was easy, it's not. But we got through it. The jurors listened to the 41 different witnesses, and they came up after 9 hours with the determination 34 counts of guilt. And now Now, what do we got? You got Judge Merchan, or who will ultimately acknowledge what DA Bragg said, which is that, we're going to suspend the sentence for 4 years until he gets out. He'll be 83 years old. Seriously? And you think that that's good for the country? That for the next 4 years that you have this thing hanging over, and you think that Donald Trump's not going to do everything in his power within which to get rid of this case? The whole thing is just nonsense. Everything was delayed. Merrick Garland delayed in those 3 other indictments. And then the one from Georgia with Fani Willis, really, it was necessary to have that prosecutor in there who you had a relationship. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And we're living the consequences of it. And I'm saddened by it, but I want to say this again, and I want to be very clear about it. I care more about the office of the presidency of this great nation. I care more about the office of the presidency than I care about Alvin Bragg's case by a multiple. I absolutely do, because at the end of the day, this is about the future of our country. And if that means that he escapes accountability, okay, he pulled off what many people see to be the impossible, to be twice impeached, 4 times indicted, charged with sexual assault, 34 criminal counts, business record fraud, 500 million civil, and the guy still becomes the president of the United States. He's defied every single odd that was possible. He did something that was impossible. It was 1,000,000,000 to 1 odds, but he did it. And I, again, care more about this country than I do about Alvin Bragg's case.
Look, I think that it goes back to our earlier discussion, and this is where you and I disagree. What Donald Trump and MAGA did was ABC from the outset. Always be campaigning and quite literally leading an insurrection against the country, casting doubt on election results, undermining our democracy. And then no matter what the issue was, if it was a natural disaster, if it was a train crash caused by Trump deregulation, whether it was inflation caused by Trump saddling America with $8 trillion in debt and printing money recklessly, whether it was whatever Trump's policies were that caused these things, when Biden went to fix it, no matter what the issue was. Remember when MAGAs, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, they were trying to actually cause a run on banks, and they got a few banks to go under, and they were cheering for it because, as Donald Trump said, they were rooting for a depression. They wanted everything to be destroyed. Donald Trump and MAGAs voted against a bipartisan border deal strategically so they could run on border chaos by stopping a bipartisan bill because they were ABC, always be campaigning. And they were doing it nefariously. They were doing it with lies. They were doing it with fraud. They were doing it with malice. They were inflicting, we never had before intent, malice, inflict pain on the country so that you could run on it. We would always have disagreements. Politics was a rough and dirty sport, if you will, and it was not for the weak of heart, but it was never inflict actual pain, bring the country pain, and then run on the pain. That's what authoritarians and fascists do. That's new and novel. So we have to recognize that that's their game plan here. And I think, though, that the facts, the evidence, the truth is on our side. Look, 99.9% of Americans are not going to be benefiting from billionaires getting extra Gulf Stream 6 jets,
and tax breaks and so on.
This stuff will not be helping Americans.
And Ben, I want to jump in on one thing here. Mm-hmm. And when that 99% or the 40% or whatever the number might be, when they finally get it through their head that the campaign promises that they bought into, groceries and gasoline, is not legitimate, it's not real, that it was just mere campaign promises. You don't like watching people being rounded up and put into internment camps and families being separated, whatever it is that floats your boat. You don't like the treatment on the LGBTQ plus community and so on. You don't like the banning of books. You don't like X, Y, and Z. I don't care what your top 3 are. It doesn't matter. When those don't happen and you realize that the campaign promises were merely just that, just campaign promises,
Right.
Then what will happen is in the midterm election, historically, what do you see? You see a complete reversal. And then you'll see the House and the Senate return to Democratic control. That's what you'll ultimately see. That's my opinion.
There's 2 comments that I'll reflect on as we go. One comment says, look what's happening in Argentina. And for those that don't know, that's like the model for Elon Musk and Donald Trump. 53% of people in Argentina live in poverty. And that's their model. And when they talk about Hungary with Viktor Orban, their inflation was like 20%, 25%. And their entire GDP in Hungary was like less than what many kind of just big to normal size corporations make in the United States. And they look to Viktor Orban in Hungary. Then there was one other comment that said, well, that was an awkward live based on the debate between Michael and myself. It wasn't. This is how Michael and I chat with each other. And I hope one of the things that you saw is that we're deeply passionate and committed to our Constitution, and that we will have these rigorous debates with facts, calmly, not yelling. Michael has the New York voice, so it may sound at times yelly, but it's not. That's just how people from New York speak. I used to be a Long Islander, so I get it. But no one's yelling. We're having a conversation.
And we'll still get off the phone, and we still love each other, and we'll still go for a drink the next time he's in New York or I'm in Cali. I mean, you're wrong about that. It goes back to the old days of like Tip O'Neill, when you can have friendly disagreements. By the way, our disagreements are just the interpretation of facts based upon timing. We totally agree with what one another say. It's just a matter of timing, and we'll see who's right. You know, only one of us can be right. In fact, I actually hope that it's going to be Ben, though sadly, I believe it will be me. And at the end of the day, that's again the importance of this Midas Touch network. I can't stress it enough. We need to have 1 million people on with us on any given show. Why? Because that million will turn to 2, turn 2 to turn to 4, and so on. And come 2026, which is when we turn everything back around, it'll be Midas Touch Network and all of the supporters, all of our community that ends up bringing this thing back to reality. The question is, how do you sustain this for the next 2 years? And we will do that together. You may not like what I'm saying. You may turn around and think that this is fear. No, it's not. You just don't like to hear this. Unfortunately, I believe it to be the sad reality.
Well, go back, everybody. Watch the debate, the discussion, the dialogue, what have you. Michael Cohen cursed during an ad. I'm not sure how, but it's a great product, those Perfect Jeans. So check them out for real, because I don't want to do an added value read, but it's a really good product. It's a really good product. I'm just not sure if we have a rule against it, but it's a great product. So check that out, everybody, and go to patreon.com/political beatdown. Michael Cohen and I will be.
We got to do it again.
Yeah, we got it. We'll announce in the next day or two our next live. I always love seeing everybody on the live, so I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in our next meeting. We'll announce that meeting soon. Thank you, everybody. And let me just say this too. We're here to fight. We're not going anywhere. We're going to lead with our values and principles. You're not going to see a Mika and Joe situation here. We're going to report fearlessly. We're going to report honestly. We're going to do our best. And we're nothing without this community. So we're grateful for all of you. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. And shout out to the Beatdown Brigaders, and shout out to the Midas Mighty.